Long ago, in the mighty Persian Empire, King Ahasuerus ruled over 127 provinces, stretching from India to Ethiopia. His kingdom was filled with wealth, power, and magnificent palaces. One day, the king held a grand celebration that lasted for many months. During the feast, he summoned Queen Vashti to appear before his guests so they could admire her beauty. But Queen Vashti refused. The king became furious. After consulting his advisors, he removed Vashti as queen and ordered that a search begin for a new queen throughout the empire. Among the young women brought to the palace was a beautiful Jewish orphan named Esther. She had lost both her parents and had been raised by her loving cousin, Mordecai. Before Esther entered the palace, Mordecai gave her one important instruction. Do not reveal that you are a Jew. Esther obeyed. After months of preparation, the day finally came for Esther to meet the king. When the king saw her, he was deeply pleased. Out of all the women in the kingdom, he chose Esther. He placed the royal crown upon her head. Esther became queen. Not long afterward, Mordecai overheard two palace guards plotting to assassinate the king. He immediately informed Esther, who passed the message to the king. The plot was uncovered. The conspirators were punished. The king's life was saved. The event was written in the royal records, but Mordecai received no reward. Then another man rose to power. His name was Haman. The king honored him above all the other officials and commanded everyone in the kingdom to bow before him. Everyone bowed, except Mordecai. Haman was filled with rage. His hatred grew so great that he decided not only to destroy Mordecai, but every Jewish person in the empire. He tricked the king into signing a law that ordered all the Jews to be killed on a chosen day. The decree spread throughout the kingdom. Fear filled every Jewish home. When Mordecai heard the terrible news, he tore his clothes, put on sackcloth and ashes, and cried loudly in the streets. Queen Esther heard about Mordecai's mourning and sent a messenger to ask what had happened. Mordecai replied, "You must go to the king and plead for your people." Esther was afraid. "No one may enter the king's presence without being invited," she said. "Anyone who does so could be put to death unless the king extends his golden scepter." Then Mordecai sent back a message that would change history forever. "Do not think that, because you live in the palace, you will escape. If you remain silent, help will come from somewhere else. But who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this?" Esther knew what she had to do. She replied, "Gather all the Jews in Susa. Fast for me for 3 days and 3 nights. My servants and I will fast as well. Then I will go to the king, even though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish." 3 days later, dressed in her royal robes, Esther walked toward the king's throne. The palace fell silent. Every eye watched. Would the king accept her? Or would this be her last day alive? The king looked at Esther. Then, he stretched out his golden scepter. Esther was safe. The king asked, "What is your request, Queen Esther?" Instead of answering immediately, Esther invited the king and Haman to a banquet. At the banquet, she invited them to another banquet the following day. That night, something unexpected happened. The king could not sleep. He ordered the royal records to be read to him. As they were read aloud, he discovered that Mordecai had once saved his life, but had never been rewarded. The next morning, Haman came to the palace to ask permission to execute Mordecai. Before Haman could speak, the king asked him, "What should be done for the man whom the king delights to honor?" Thinking the king was talking about him, Haman described an elaborate royal celebration. The king smiled and said, "Excellent. Go at once and do exactly that, for Mordecai." Haman was humiliated. The man he hated most was honored before the entire city. Later that day, at Esther's second banquet, the king again asked, "What is your request?" Esther took a deep breath. "If I have found favor in your sight, spare my life, and spare the lives of my people." The king was shocked. Who would dare do such a thing? Esther pointed directly at Haman. "The enemy is this wicked man." The king's anger burned. Haman was arrested. The very gallows he had built for Mordecai became the place of his own execution. Mordecai was promoted to Haman's position. A new royal decree allowed the Jewish people to defend themselves. What was meant to destroy them became a day of victory. Across the empire, the Jewish people celebrated with joy and thanksgiving. Their deliverance became an annual celebration known as Purim. Esther's courage saved an entire nation. Her story reminds us that God can place ordinary people in extraordinary positions for a greater purpose. And sometimes, one act of courage can change history forever.